Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about constructors. So this is the third video in a series. In the first two we talked about defining an interface, so that is the properties and methods belonging to an object. We talked about how to set up properties. We've talked about instantiation. Now it's time to create our first method. Now this is far from the easiest method we're going to create, but we left off here. So we created a couple instances of the player object, but we couldn't do anything with them because the properties never got set up. So initialization of these properties is going to happen in something called a constructor. I'm looking forward to this because I get to write some code, and so do you if you're following along. So if we want to create a constructor, this is one of those magic methods, so it's got a weird name to it. I'm going to say it's public because I want to be able to call it from outside the class. It's a method, but it's keyword function. Magic method means underscore underscore, and it's called construct. Alright, I'm going to start off with having no parameters on this thing, but that's definitely not going to be what I want. I'm going to open and close curly braces, close my curly braces. There's going to be all kinds of curly braces in this thing by the time it's said and done, so I feel like anytime you don't comment out a closing curly brace, you're kind of heading down the wrong path. Construct. Alright, so this is what gets called when you write new. It means I'm calling the constructor. You saw I could create an instance of an object without a constructor, but it didn't have any properties set. Now this is where things get all kinds of weird. Alright, so we've got two of these things. So when a new Ken object is created, it calls this constructor. And so I'd like to go like this, so Ken name equals Ken. Don't actually, I mean, you could write that. It's not going to work right though, but you see how this kind of doesn't make sense? This class is a general definition, and these down here are specific instances. I mean, when Sarah calls this constructor, it's going to set Ken's name. That doesn't make sense. And that's where this comes into play. I don't know what the heck the name of this instance is called. It's just whatever the current instance of this class is, set this one's name to Ken. So this is going to give both Sarah and Ken the name Ken, which is super weird, but it's like better than it was, I guess. But that's what a constructor does, is it initializes those properties. So you see the arrow operator and you see the use of this. And it means whoever's calling this function, that's who we're talking about. It can get all kinds of confusing. Alright, so I don't think we want to name everyone Ken, so that wasn't exactly the right idea. Instead, what we want to do, so right now this constructor has 0 parameters. Let's give it a parameter of name. Right, so now we're saying we expect this thing to be passed some value called name, and then now that goes on that side of my assignment statement. And so if I want to set up Ken, I'll go like that. And if I want to set up Sarah, it'll go like that. So you see how this works now? We got these private properties, and we are not accessing them from outside of here, but we're setting them up from here. And just for fun, I'm going to make that public just for testing purposes, and then we'll get away from it. Head on over here. And that didn't do anything, of course, because I forgot to echo, so I'm going to echo out Ken's name. And that's going to work because I made it public. If it was private, that wouldn't work. You're probably wondering, what in the heck do I do about that? Well, the solution is those getter and setter methods, so more magic methods, but I don't really want to do that for now. I'm just showing you how that worked. I'm not going to illustrate everything like that because it would take forever. Alright, so at this point you're seeing that we had to pass name because each one of these players has a name. The rest of this starts to become judgment calls. So I don't know, does everyone start off with the same HP? Is HP a random number that gets generated? Is it dependent on level? I don't know, things like that. Those are design decisions, but I'm going to do the laziest thing I can think of, which is just initialize them to some value. So let's say everyone starts off with 10 HP. Now, you see, I just reached a fork in the road. I could add another parameter here, and that could be HP, and then that could be HP right there. But like I said, in reality, you probably would want to do that, but I'm trying to make this thing simple for purposes of illustration. I think the best idea would be to generate some kind of random number here, right? And it probably might be, I don't know what it would be dependent on, but I'm not trying to get into that. Like I said, you should do cool things with this. I'm not doing cool things. I'm just doing the most straightforward things I can think of. So every level starts off at 1. There you go. So the only thing that actually varies about a player when they're created is their name. Now, I don't know if that's right or wrong. You could add or subtract parameters to get what you want out of this, but that is basically how a constructor works. So it initializes the properties of an object. Now, we've got these access issues here, and we're going to have to find ways to deal with that, and that's where a bunch of other functions are going to come into play, like getters, for example. In the next video, we'll look at another magic method called toString, and that's going to give us a lot of what we want to get out of this. So the problem here is we can't really test this out because all we got are these private properties. We can't access them from outside the class, but we're going to use a toString function to help us out with that. So in the next video, you're going to get to see a look at a toString function.